Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, what happened yesterday afternoon in the Upper West Side near Central Park in Manhattan has shaken not just New York, but the country now to its very foundation. And I hate to be the guy, I really do, that said, I told you so, but this has now been a long time coming. Ever since that Muslim Ugandan communist, and that's what he is a Muslim Ugandan communist, was elected and installed as mayor of New York City. By their own statistics, this is coming straight from City Hall in New York, anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic attacks have gone up. They've exploded over 180%. And one of the first things that Mamdani did, in fact, within hours of being sworn in, was that he deliberately negated and got rid of previous executive orders that protected Jews and Jewish communities. Everything that was done to try to protect Jews and Jewish communities, especially in the wake of October 7th and the incredible upsurge and explosion in anti-Semitic hate, in Jew-hating bile that was coming from college campuses, radical Palestinian activists, open Islamists. Mamdani, with the stroke of a pen, within 3 hours of being sworn in, took away all of those protections, everything that was installed to help defend and protect Jews in particular, and especially Jewish neighborhoods and Jewish communities. Well, lo and behold, under his watch, anti-Semitism is now everywhere. Jews are being targeted, Jews are being attacked, persecuted, shot, stabbed, raped. It is an epidemic that is now is completely out of control. In fact, just videotape yesterday showed a group of Muslim youths in New York City confronting a Jewish person wearing a yarmulke, and they began to surround him, mock him. They knocked the yarmulke off his head and said to be careful because one day they're going to kill him. And then they laughed at him as he walked away. Well, it went from knocking skull caps to now stabbing people in the back. So here is exactly what happened. After Mamdani delivered a speech within 24 hours, where he vowed that he would do everything in his power to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that according to him, Israelis were guilty of war crimes in Gaza. Jews were guilty of war crimes in Gaza. A vicious attack on the entire Jewish people, upon the state of Israel, and for him engaging in that blood libel and saying essentially that Israel is a genocide state and that Netanyahu, should he arrive in New York City, that he risks being arrested. And then Mamdani had to admit he didn't have the power to arrest him and send him to the International Criminal Court, but he said he should be arrested and sent to the International Criminal Court. And by the way, let me just say this. What business does the mayor of New York or any city have in demanding the arrest of any foreign leader? I'm not just talking about the Prime Minister of Israel. I'm sorry. Are you now Secretary of State? Are you Secretary of Defense? I'm sorry. Are you National Security Advisor? What are you? I'm sorry, the Vice President? What are you, the top political advisor to President Donald Trump? What authority do you have to even call or demand for the arrest of any foreign leader? Never mind the Prime Minister of Israel. You punk, you. You Islamist, communist, Ugandan punk. Well, it doesn't matter. Because what his job is, and it's now so clear, most New Yorkers can see it, finally. He is there to sow chaos. He is there to sow hatred. He is there to sow division. And my God, he's now delivered. At 1:30 p.m., an individual by the name of Raul Morales, influenced, egged on by speeches by Mamdani, first pulled out a knife, approached an Asian man, 57 years old, on the Upper West Side near Central Park. According to countless witness statements, completely unprovoked, just pulled out his knife, spotted a man, and yelled out, Allahu Akbar. And then he stabbed that Asian man right in the back. He collapsed to the floor on his knees. His wife walking beside him was in shock and horror. Bystanders could not believe what had just happened. And then this vicious, vicious perpetrator then ran off, and several blocks down the road, for him, he hit the mother lode. He saw a 50-year-old Jewish man with a yarmulke, a skull cap, who had just walked out of he was in a prayer service at a local a Jewish synagogue, a Jewish center. He had just come out of prayers in a Jewish synagogue, and he ran right up to him, and again, in front of multiple witnesses, screamed, Allah Akbar, and took a screwdriver and rammed it right into his chest. The man collapsed immediately, blood spreading absolutely everywhere, pandemonium, people in panic. They immediately called 911. The ambulance was on the scene by the grace of God super fast. That's probably what saved his life. They took both of the victims to the hospital. They are expected to survive, but their wounds are very, very serious. Now, what is 1,000% clear is that this was a knife stabbing rampage. These were two separate locations within several blocks of each other, and this man ran, stabbing one, and then ran and stabbed another. And had he not been arrested, he would have kept stabbing people, and it wouldn't have ended. When is this going to end? This is now the question. When is this going to end? As now people on the New York City City Council are now coming out one by one, their words, not mine, saying Mamdani now has blood on his hands. When you keep vilifying Jews, when you keep vilifying Israelis, when you keep calling for the annihilation of the Jewish state, when you keep pouring gasoline on the fire, when you keep pushing anti-Semitism night and day, you are putting a target on the backs of Jews all across New York City. Tensions now between Muslims and Jews in New York are at an all-time high. Random attacks on Jews are now an everyday occurrence, as I just mentioned 5 minutes ago. Now, local city council members, and they've issued statements saying, I never talk like this. I never talk like this. But to Mamdani, I can't say it on the air. Let me clean it up. F you. This is on you. When are you going to stop this? When is the Jew hatred going to stop? When is blaming Jews for everything that's happening in the Middle East, when is it going to stop? And the answer is, it's not going to stop, my friends, because that's who this person is. And notice, He's barely been in power, what is it, 6, 7 months? Homicides up. Crime up. In New York, crime way up. Homelessness way up. As I mentioned yesterday, he's now got a 12 blocks of a homeless encampment where they're shooting up heroin and taking meth, prostitution, drug addicts everywhere, crime exploding, and he refuses to do anything. But he's got time to try to hunt down Netanyahu. He's got time to go after Jews and target them and vilify them. If things don't change, and I mean change immediately, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Mamdani now under intense fire. Local media is blaming Mamdani for this latest anti-Semitic rampage. You now have Democrats, not Republicans, Democrats on New York City Council now, openly using the F-bomb in public statements, press releases on X, referring to him and his leadership, saying that he has now created such a climate of Jew hatred and anti-Semitism that it is out of control. Jews are being targeted, persecuted, attacked, shot at, and yesterday they were the victims of a knife screwdriver rampage. Now, very, very quickly, this story, and I'm going to do everything I can to push it. I'm going to do it on social media over the weekend, and I want to do it obviously on today's show. This story is not getting the attention that it deserves. And if it does get the attention that it deserves, I think it will politically finish Mamdani off. He's already in big trouble. His poll numbers are dropping. New Yorkers are becoming disgusted. Not just Jewish New Yorkers, Italian New Yorkers, white New Yorkers. By the way, now, he is targeting black neighborhoods. He wants to raise taxes on black homes so that they will leave and sell so that Muslims and migrants can move in. I've never seen anything like this. So the tide is now turning on this Muslim Ugandan communist. But I want you to just stand back for a second. This needs to be exposed. It truly does, because he needs to answer for this. Mamdani attended Friday prayers at a mosque. If you want the exact mosque, I'll tell you the exact mosque. It is the Al-Huway Islamic Center Mosque in Queens, New York. He was invited by the imam. Mamdani spoke. He attended. He spoke. He prayed. He talked about being the first Muslim mayor and how he was there to amplify Muslim power, Muslim interests, the Muslim community, and that he said, as long as we stay together, we can run this city. And then when he was done, the imam spoke. Mamdani was in the room. It was packed. Packed. And this is what the imam said. This was his prayer in honor of Mamdani. O Allah, make us among the supporters of the awaited Mahdi. Make us among those who await him and those who die for him. O Allah, grant him the killing of the infidels by your sword. Now, the Mahdi, this mosque, by the way, is tied to Iran. I'm going to get to this in a second. The Mahdi is what the Shia Muslims want, which is the coming, it's called the 12th Imam, the Mahdi or the 12th Imam, basically the Islamic Jesus, the second coming of the Islamic Jesus, whereby this Muslim angel will now descend upon the earth, marking the final triumph of Islam. And for this to happen, the entire world must be conquered under Islam, a global Islamic caliphate, where the world is consumed in a ball of fire, i.e. a nuclear Armageddon. This imam was calling for martyrs and was saying, grant him the killing of the infidels by your sword. Infidels means all non-Muslims. It's a term used by Muslims. It's a substitute for kuffar, Kuffar, which is how many Muslims refer to non-Muslims. But it's very derogatory. Think of the N-word for blacks. So, we're less than. We're a kuffar. We're basically an N, a religious N. This mosque that I described to you that Mamdani attended and prayed at and spoke at, and then this imam that spoke right after him, is run by the Al-Qawi Islamic Foundation. It's a Shia organization. The foundation has financial ties. You can look this up. Don't take my word for it. To the Alavi Foundation, Alavi. Well, our Department of Justice has now said repeatedly for years, they've identified the Alavi Foundation as literally a front for the Iranian regime, and that they've been receiving millions and millions of dollars from Tehran to spread Sharia law. Okay, I want to go to the phones, but before I do, just two very, very quick things, and then I promise I want to start taking calls. Great audience of Kuhner Country. A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, the alleged perpetrator who engaged in this knife stabbing rampage yesterday, his name is Raul Morales. Apparently, I believe, 51 years old, the way the media is describing him. Anyway, that's not obviously a Muslim-sounding name. That's, if anything, what is it, Latino or whatever, Hispanic-sounding name. Whatever. This is what I find even now more dangerous. Because of the climate of Jew hatred and anti-Semitism really now pouring forth, not just from Mamdani, but pouring forth now from the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party. And it's a constant drumbeat now. It's all of these Democratic Socialists of America. It's coming from Bernie. It's coming from AOC. It's coming from Talib, Ilhan Omar. I could go on and on and on. It's relentless. It's nonstop. It's Hassan Piker. It's MS Now. It's CNN. It doesn't end. It's all of these activists where it's Jew hatred after Jew hatred. Look at the rise of Platner. How essentially that Nazi swastika on his chest and the way he kept going on about the Jews and about Israel, how that propelled him by the grassroots of the Democratic Party. It is now bleeding over into inspiring and influencing non-Muslims like a Raul Morales to start stabbing and wanting to murder and kill Jews. Because now they're so brainwashed and so full of hate and so convinced, like in the 1930s, that the Jews are the mortal enemy of society, that they now must be attacked, they must be persecuted, they must be destroyed, they must be stamped out. And so now it's getting to the point where you will have a non-Muslim Democrat activist say, let me grab a knife and start killing people in the name of Allah. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Now, I want you to listen. This is Mamdani. Now, and please, you have to understand this. New York's economy is in serious trouble. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayers are fleeing. Business after business is leaving. The wealthiest are already gone or in the process of packing up and moving. Unemployment is going up. People on welfare are going up. Poverty is going up. Homelessness is now an epidemic. Homeless encampments are an epidemic. People say, by the way, you got to read the comments from people in that, the area where the crime was committed. 88th Street, 87th Street, 86th Street, Upper West Side, Manhattan, near Central Park. People are saying, this was a good area 15, 20 years ago. You could live here, you could play outside, you could have a family. Everyone is saying, get out. Just get out. Because the crime and the filth and the drugs, it's overtaken so much of this area. So rather than deal, by the way, the massive potholes, I could go on and on, the transportation problems, the congestion. There are so many freaking problems to fix in New York City. But rather than deal with that, this is what, remember, I want to stress this, the mayor of New York, the mayor, not the Secretary of State, not the Secretary of Defense, not the National Security Advisor, the mayor. This is what he's obsessed with. Mike, roll clip 1 million.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is perhaps planning to visit New York for the UN General Assembly. You pledged during your campaign and after you won to order his arrest to comply with the International Criminal Court warrant. What will happen if he comes in September?
Look, I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
So that was him walking back this promise that he was going to arrest Netanyahu. But notice, and this is the question I would ask for him. A, how is this any of your business? Okay, number one. B, you know exactly which buttons you were pressing, because we know that your supporters, these Muslim militants and Muslim fanatics, with their keffiyehs and their Palestinian flags, they want Netanyahu swinging from a tree. So what you were just doing was feeding their bloodlust, let's be honest. Because you know, and everybody knows, that the International Criminal Court, the so-called ICC, has no jurisdiction, has no writ, has no authority in the United States of America. In fact, in most places around the world, they have absolutely no legal authority. So to say I want to arrest him and send him to the ICC, you know you don't have the authority, and the ICC doesn't have any authority. So what you were doing was you were playing on this hatred of Israel and hatred of Netanyahu and into the basest, worst impulses of your base, which is now, let's be honest, a Jew-hating, anti-Semitic base. That's all you guys know is to hate Jews. That's what this was all about. Now, here's how I would flip it on him. How come you don't call for the supreme leader of Iran to be arrested and sent to the ICC? Do you know how many Americans, forget people around the world, they're the number one largest state sponsor of terrorism. Do you know how many Americans The Ayatollah, the son of the Ayatollah, and he was part of the whole regime. Do you know how many Americans he's killed? Thousands. Literally thousands. But you don't call for him to be arrested by the ICC. Interesting. How about the leader of Hamas? No? What about what they did on October 7th, 2023? When they literally put children in ovens and burned them to death, and then repeatedly raped and murdered innocent women. No? Should the leader of Hamas be arrested? No? Suddenly, no. Oh, so Hamas shouldn't be. Oh, okay, I got it. How about Hezbollah? And all the innocent men, women, and children that they have murdered and slaughtered. Oh, no, you don't want them arrested. Oh, that's interesting. How about the Muslim Brotherhood? How about Islamic Jihad? Tell me, how about that head chopper in Syria who now runs it, who was once ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and I'm not even talking ordered executions of innocent Christians and innocent non-Muslims. He personally engaged in chopping their heads off. He's a mass murderer with his own hands. No, he doesn't go to the ICC. I got you. So let me guess. Who are the two people you want at the ICC? Oh, of course, Netanyahu and Trump. You phony, you fraud, you. And this is my ultimate point, and then I want to go to the phone lines. This man, who comes from Uganda, was only naturalized, 10 years ago, if that, a red diaper baby. His mother, literally, not as a figure of speech, was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party in India. She's a communist who made it big in the film industry. He was raised by a communist mother and a communist father. He is a Marxist to his core. He comes from a privileged background. He lives in a multi-million-dollar apartment. He had a private school education where he was again further brainwashed and indoctrinated in the glories of communism and Marxism. So this Ugandan Muslim communist comes to the United States, and you want to destroy everything that is good about America? You want to overturn our Constitution, overturn our Bill of Rights, overturn our free market system, overturn our entire political system, and in the process, you want to wage a jihad, a slow-burning, creeping jihad. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick. This is what I got from 508. Jeff, good morning. Well, good morning to you, 508. It's not just New York City that Muslims are taking over. Jeff, I just got back from Europe after a month-long vacation. I saw this sign in Split. It's a pro-Muslim, pro-Ottoman Turk sign in Split, Croatia, while taking a tour of the Dalmatian Palace. Then we went to Albania. In Berat, Albania, there were many Muslims. In the capital of Albania, Tirana, the same. Muslims everywhere. We struck up a conversation with a waiter there who told us the Jews are ruining the world. Okay, so I get that the population is 70% Muslim. So I could maybe understand anti-Semitism in those parts of Albania. But what really blew me away was when we went to Bari, Italy. It was uncomfortable. I didn't feel entirely safe there. Muslims everywhere. So that's what I mean. That's a daily story about Europe. I mean, it's city after city, country after country. They have unleashed the floodgates, and I don't think they can put that genie back in the bottle. We'll see, but Europe is in big trouble. But to me, I want to save America. And what Mamdani is doing, and it began with Biden. Actually, it began with Obama. Accelerated under Biden. But you can see it clearly now with Mamdani. They want to make New York City like London. They want to make it a Muslim-dominated city where Christians and Jews, whites, Italians, traditional immigrant groups are not welcome, and they want them out. 617-266-6868. Andrea in Weymouth. You're going to kick us off, Andrea. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I know you're talking about, I know the focus is Mamdani. He's lower than a snake. I'm going to agree with everything you say about him because I think worse, trust me. I'm one of your few Jewish callers. I'm an older woman. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother, and I want people to understand that it's way worse than the incident that you just talked about. There's this group, Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. They did a survey this year. As of July, 57% of all Jews in America have experienced anti-Semitism. The FBI statistics say that anti-Semitic hate crimes in the United States have now reached the highest ever level recorded. What did I read 2 hours ago? At a Christmas pageant at a Ukrainian church here in the United States, okay? A nativity scene, kids in costumes, an actor in a fake nose and long sidelocks playing a Jewish villain out to destroy Jesus. This is in places like New York, Chicago, big cities like that. If you were on my Facebook page, you would see this nonstop. There was also over the weekend another visibly Jewish man who was knocked over and broke a hip because he was visibly Jewish. I just want your audience to understand how bad the Jew hatred is in this country. And I know a lot of them don't because they don't read this stuff. They don't have a reason to, but I do. And it's way more than this one incident that also included a man who was, in fact, not Jewish or Jewish appearance. So it bothers me that it doesn't get enough emphasis in the media. I understand why, but it bothers the heck out of me, and since you were talking about it, I thought I would chime in early before your lines got too busy.
Well, Andrea, look, I have to tell you, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. And let's just leave Europe out because Europe is a disaster now. But let's just stick to the United States. New York City, there are now entire areas, and to show you how brazen they've become, the Muslim lobby in this country. New York has about as many Jews as, say, Tel Aviv. It's got about 2 million Jews. 2 million. It's culturally, and I say this with affection. I say this with, to me, New York used to be one of the greatest cities in the world. It's a culturally Jewish city. You know, some of the words, some of the mannerisms, Jews have incredibly contributed to New York City. I mean, on every level, whether it's law, whether it's medicine, whether it's finance, whether it's, I could just go on and on. The food, the cuisine, I mean, just on and on and on. You know, so, and there are now parts of New York City where Jews do not go. They are no-go zones, like they have in London, like they have in Paris, like they have in Berlin, like they have in Rome. As I said, this woman that went on vacation said, Jeff, I went to Bari, Italy. This is Italy, man. I don't think you can get more civilized than Italy. Okay, this is the Renaissance. These are the Italians. And she said, I couldn't believe it. The place was overrun with Muslims to the point that I felt unsafe. I felt uncomfortable. And she's not even Jewish. I don't believe she's Jewish. In other words, just as a non-Muslim, I felt like menaced. So this is what they're doing in New York. And I've seen those videos. And I've seen old men attacked because they're Jewish, old women attacked because they're Jewish. I'll never forget what happened in Denver. People have already forgotten about that, where they were gathering at a park in order to commemorate the victims of October 7. And this crazy individual came out and literally burned Jewish Americans alive. He roasted them. He threw some kind of a liquid on them, and then he lit them on fire. He roasted them. He burned them. And there was practically no condemnation in the media. And Muslim organization after Muslim organization, and especially on social media, they were cheering it. So it's horrible, and it's going to get even worse. On college campuses, you are targeted if you're Jewish. It's gotten so bad, I know for a fact, Jewish students are saying, I will not wear the Star of David. I will not wear a skull cap or a yarmulke. I will do everything in my power to hide my Jewish identity. Why? Because it's easy to say, stand up, stand up. They said, you don't understand. You get smashed in the head. You get burned alive. You get stabbed. You get beaten. You get assaulted. Because the hatred now that is coming from the students and from the professors. You got to see the group that Mamdani now has propelled to power. They're going to win the elections in November. They won all the primaries. It's all based on anti-Semitism and hatred of the Jews. And look, I don't want to beat a dead horse. When Platner went head-to-head with the current governor of Maine, Janet Mills, you could go down every single issue. Open borders, abolish ICE, climate change, transgenderism. They're identical. They're identical. So why was Platner such an exciting candidate? Why did he take off like wildfire? There's only one thing that distinguishes him from Janet Mills. He hates the Jews. He's pro-Hamas. He's pro-Iran. And the Nazis, he didn't win in spite of the Nazi, the swastika tattoo, the SS, the death knell tattoo. He won because of the Nazi tattoo. And this is happening. You've got this Milat Kiros from Ethiopia, who now is definitely going to be a member of Congress. You think Graham Platner hates Jews? This woman is straight out of Mein Kampf. She wants them out. Juden frei, as the Germans said under Hitler. Free of Jews. Out. Cleanse. Every single one out. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if this doesn't sound the alarm, honestly, I don't know what will. Now, I don't know why, and I'm going to be very honest with you, Andrea. Whenever I cover the issue of rampant anti-Semitism, I always get blowback from Jewish listeners because I will call out liberal Democrat Jews. And I will say, look, fine, I get it, you're a Democrat. I get it, you're liberal. But how could you sell your own down the river like this? How could you not condemn this? And then they'll say, oh, you're always like picking on the Jews. I'm like, I'm not picking on the Jews. Quite the opposite. I love them. I want to save them. I don't want them to get hurt. But I'm sorry, I have to call out facts. Have Jews not been persecuted for thousands of years? Yes. Were not 6 million Jews sent to the gas ovens in the Holocaust, in Auschwitz, and Treblinka, and Buchenwald? Yes. So I'm sorry, I would just assume if I was Jewish that I would say, we got to be very careful because people have killed us and murdered us and tried to exterminate us going back 2,000 years. And Hitler came damn close to doing it. And now his descendants are marching on the streets. Now, we should all call it out. But you would think Jews would be leading the pack. Let me tell you the dirty secret. Recent poll. They asked the Jews of New York, regardless of their political affiliation, okay? Republican, Democrat, Independent. 39% oppose Mamdani. 39%. That's it. 44% of Jews, they identify as liberal Jews, 44% support Mamdani. And then the rest are, I don't get it, but they're undecided. So more Jews, a plurality, more liberal Jews in New York support this anti-Semitic monster than oppose him. Houston, we have a problem. Or if you want me to be, Jerusalem, we have a problem. And so I think it's time now the Jewish community has to step up. I don't care if many of them are members of the Democratic Party. This to me is beyond being a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative or a Republican. This is pure barbarism. I don't want this poison in my country. I don't want my fellow citizens being targeted like this. This is the video that I saw last night that is going viral of a young Jewish man. Looks to me like a student, but anyway, whatever. With his yarmulke, his skull cap, walking on a sidewalk, and there may be 7 to 8 young Muslim migrants or young Muslim men, and saying that Jews must die. That's what they're chanting in Arabic. Jews must die. And then they walk behind him and they knock his skull cap off. And they're mocking him. And he knows perfectly well that if he fights them, they're going to kill him. Because it's 8-1. Okay, this is not the movies. This is real life. And so he picks up his skull cap and he keeps walking, almost like running away. And they're high-fiving each other. This is in downtown New York City. Mamdani says nothing. His the people that work under him say nothing because they're encouraging it. Now, I'm sorry. Jewish organizations, Jewish leaders need to speak out and not just condemn this and condemn Mamdani, but they need to condemn the other 44% that are supporting him. Anybody who supports him should be shamed. Anybody. But in particular, I mean, I'm sorry. I'll go in front of any Jewish organization. I'm going to say, did we forget the Holocaust? Did you guys all forget the Holocaust? Did we all forget the Holocaust now? But I have to tell you your 2,000 years of suffering and persecution? And now it's happening again? And you've got to speak out and shame these liberal Jews. Because without them, he never would have won. So, Andrea, I'm going to give you the last word. What I don't understand for the life of me is why there's even one Jewish New Yorker that still supports this guy. And yet, incredibly, he still has more support among Jews than opposition among Jews in New York. And I don't understand it. Can you explain it to me? What's your theory, Andrea?
Bills in Sudbury and the non-Jews who call you, and they don't care about issues either. How I might be able to explain it is that when Judaism veered off from being more conservative and more pure, just like Christianity did, they became more social justice things. I don't happen to be one of them. I was never one of them. A third of Jews are conservative. You just don't hear about us. But what I want people to understand, Jewish or not, and I can't fix those Jews any more than we can fix other segments of society, is what starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. We're the canaries in the coal mine, and everybody who's listening needs to hear that, sit with it a while, and understand that if they get every single Jew in this country and in this world which wouldn't be that hard. They're coming for the rest of you. That's what's really important and what I wanted to emphasize as well. So
you are 1,000. In fact, no, let me upgrade it. You are 1,000,000% correct, Andrea. Not 100, not 1,000, 1,000,000%. And thank you for that call. Mamdani refused to put Little Italy on a map of traditional immigrant groups that contributed to New York. The Italian Americans in New York City, are livid about this. And it was done on purpose. Because he wants to drive the Italians out of New York City. Just so that you know, Mayor Michelle Wu, Marxist Michelle, is waging war against the North End and basically Little Italy here in Boston. She wants the Italians out of the North End, out of Boston. Because in the minds of these leftists, you see, Italian Americans are not just incredibly successful immigrants, and I know many of them have been here for generations, but I mean, an immigrant group. It's that Italian Americans, and they tend now to vote more conservative. Okay, they didn't initially, they were very Democrat, but now they become more conservative, especially over the generations. But the real problem is, Italian Americans are living proof of the American dream. Because Italian Americans are some of the best immigrants you will ever find. They assimilate. They work hard. They have strong families. They set up businesses. Their children get educated or get a trade or a skill or whatever. They don't whine. They don't complain. They just slowly rise. So you see, their very existence refutes the narrative of the left that this is somehow a racist, oppressive country where nobody can get ahead. That's not true. And the Italians are example number one. Jews as well, by the way. Greeks I could go on and list other groups. But, because of the numbers of Italians, right? There's movies about Italians, Italian Americans. Everybody has a Little Italy in every city. Everybody knows about the Italians and how well they do. So, to the Marxist left, they are verboten. They have to be chased out. Mamdani wants the Italians out of New York City. He's an anti-white racist. He's a bigot against Christians, Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox. It doesn't matter. Evangelicals, it doesn't matter. So when Andrea says, yeah, it starts with the Jews, sure, but it doesn't stop, she's completely right. And now he's going to screw over the African Americans because he's a Ugandan. He doesn't give a damn about the blacks and the indigenous blacks in the United States that can go back hundreds of years. He doesn't care because most of them are Christians. Out. So now he's deliberately taxing these communities, these areas, predominantly black, working class, lower middle class neighborhoods, to drive them out of their homes, make it so expensive they have to leave or sell, because he wants to bring in the Muslims and the migrants. It's ethnic cleansing. It's religious cleansing. But it's a creeping, slow burn cleansing. And all this guy does is smile. That's all he does. He just smiles. That's his shtick. It's actually very smart. It's well coordinated. It's sly. It's clever. So he just smiles, and people know it's getting worse, and he just smiles, and he plays stupid. And because in the end, I'll just give you an example. Jared Kushner's father, who's Jewish, said that he feels now so unsafe in New York, especially under Mamdani, that he and his family are packing up and they're leaving. What do you think Mamdani's response to that is? Good. He's not a normal mayor who says, ooh, that's a taxpayer. Ooh, that's a lot of jobs there. Ooh, these people pay a lot in taxes. We need that. for social services, for roads, for police, for hospitals, for schools. What can I do to convince you to stay? No. Great. Bye. Adios. One less Jew. See you later. Or if the blacks leave, good. One less black. One more home for a Muslim or a migrant. Or whites or whoever. So he doesn't care. In fact, that's what he wants. So that's why he comes out. Two people have been severely stabbed. You've got now members of the city local Democrats, city local council saying, F you, you've created this condition. And he just smiles and says, oh, this is wrong. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, another day, another anti-Semitic attack. This time a rampage by an individual who shouted Allahu Akbar in front of countless witnesses, stabbing one man in the back with a knife, and then several blocks later with a screwdriver attacked an openly Jewish man, about 50 years old, stabbing him right in the chest for no reason whatsoever. And now many New Yorkers are blaming Mamdani and the culture of Jew hatred and anti-Semitism that he and his supporters have unleashed. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Derek in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff? A good show as always.
Thank you, Derek.
When I blame the electorate, the people who vote for this guy Mamdani. That 44% that you said, the Jewish people who are liberals who. But I also blame people like that Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio, people who groom people like Mamdani, who set the stage for someone like him. And when he's not, this guy's nothing but a carpetbagger, isn't he? I mean, you said he's from Uganda. He's a naturalized citizen or something. I mean, there was, just like Michelle Wu, isn't she a carpetbagger? Along with Elizabeth Warren, they go to blue states and they see the political landscape or something, and then they, go in and run on that, whatever platform that they're running on. Like you were mentioning Plattner. The only reason why I believe he stepped down because he allegedly raped a fellow traveler or something, some other woman who was
she was a liberal. But the real reason, to be brutally honest, Derek, is he was now tanking in the polls. That was his real crime. Not that he was raping women or allegedly raping women. It's that his poll numbers were going down. And he was starting to lose to Susan Collins. So they did to him what they did to Joe Biden, to Joey. They said, okay, let's toss him off the ballot and let's try to, parachute someone else in. But, Derek, look, I want to go back to what you said something earlier, which I think is completely correct. They've created a Frankenstein's monster. And you're right. It's Bill de Blasio. It's Eric Adams. It's the Democratic establishment, the Democratic elites. They're the ones who have been grooming a guy like Mamdani. And this is going to shock you, Derek. Polls now show that if Mamdani wants to run for the U.S. Senate, he would win. He would win. That's how many migrants and third worlders that they've brought in and how far to the left frankly, many guilt-ridden white liberals have become in places like New York City, where they would actually vote for this guy not to just be their mayor, even though he's driving the city into the ground. No. If Mamdani wants, He can primary and beat Schumer. He can primary and beat Kirsten Gillibrand. So he could, if he wants, he could be the next senator from New York. That's how far to the left the Democrats have become. A naked anti-Semite, a naked Hamas supporter, pro-terrorist, a naked Jew hater, a naked communist, a third world Ugandan communist, and the kind of revolution he wants to bring. He wants to bring about third world communism to America. That's the dream of him and the entire democratic socialists of America. So, I mean, I got to ask you, Derek, I mean, do these Democrats have a death wish? Because this is suicide for the United States. What say you?
These Democrats have a death wish. Now, when this tragic things after this incident unfolded, did Schumer come out and say anything about what Mandami did, or did Bernie Sanders say anything about it? No. I mean, they probably kept quiet, or if they were asked about it, they would dance around the issue. I don't have an answer, Jeff. I mean, last thing I want to say is, what about this coming election? Do you think Trump will hold on to the House and maybe the Senate? I mean, if the Democrats continue to go down this path, what do you think? Back to you.
Well, that's the $64,000 question, because the Houthis now are blockading the Red Sea, essentially. And they've now knocked out 2 Saudi oil tankers. They destroyed them. And so the war is escalating. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Now it's $100 a barrel of oil. Gasoline is going way up. Oil is going way up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is an email that I got from Michael. Jeff, listen every morning. Love your show. Thank you, Michael. Where is our New York's highest-ranking Jewish senator, Chuck the Muck Schumer? He wrote a book last year on anti-Semitism. That's true, by the way. He did. He wrote a book. Total crickets, because he's afraid of AOC primarying him. Bingo. Bingo. Now he's quiet. So you got these poor Jewish men getting stabbed for no reason whatsoever by these psychotic anti-Semites inspired by Mamdani. And where's Chuck U. Schumer? I mean, he's the highest ranking politician from New York. And nothing. You know why? Because all Mamdani has to do is, wink, wink, and nod his head over to Schumer, to AOC, and say, primary his ass. And if she does, he's finished. And he knows it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Okay, Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Mark in Milton. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
This is simply a continued. First of all, that was a great call from that woman. I didn't catch her name.
Andrea.
And she is so correct. This is a continuation of the Obama goal of transforming the United States into a third world Muslim hellhole. I'm Jewish. I have no Jewish friends left. When Barack Obama began his initial campaign back in, 2005, I coined a phrase saying, and I told all my friends, my Jewish friends, a vote for Obama was a vote for the annihilation of Israel. And it's proving to be, pretty correct. I don't know if you remember when Israel was under attack I'd say about 5 years ago, with all of the missiles coming out of Gaza. And here in the United States, and specifically in Newton, they had these gatherings of Jewish people to protest what was going on. And I went to the Newton ones a couple times. And in fact, I think you had the Israeli ambassador on the day after one of those evening events. And I spoke to several people there each time. And I said, the only way to truly stop this is to vote the Democrats out. And I can't remember exactly, but I will tell you that not one person responded favorably. Not one of the Jewish people attending the rallies in support of Israel responded favorably to being told they shouldn't vote Democrat. Who's the only president, the only one, I think, or maybe there was some support back in 1948, I don't know, I wasn't around, that has successfully initiated a workable peace process in the Middle East? Who's the only president? And oh, by the way, I'm not very happy with him today regarding deportations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he's the only president that has made headway in peace in the Middle East and safety for Jewish people around the world.
Oh, it's
and
Trump.
Yeah,
it's Trump. It's no question. Oh, it's no question, Mark. And no, look, let me be brutally honest with you. And I completely understand where you're coming from, which is, and I've met people like this, where they will put their allegiance to the Democratic Party above, say, their Jewish identity or above their Catholic identity. I can't tell you how many Democrat Catholics I've met. And I'm like, how could you consider yourself a Catholic if you go by the Catholic Catechism and the faith? You, by definition, you cannot vote for the Democratic Party. I'm not saying you have to vote Republican, but you cannot vote for the Democrats on abortion, on transgenderism, on same-sex marriage, on homosexuality, I could just go on and on and on. I mean, we're not talking about, fringe issues. We're talking about the heart of Catholic social teaching. It's the heart of the church and what it stands for. And they have no answer. It's basically Jesus was Karl Marx. It's socialism. It's social justice. Well, I'm a social justice Catholic. Well, you can call yourself whatever you want, but you're not being a Catholic if you support the Democratic Party. And so I really understand where you're coming from, because I say to them often, you cannot be a true Catholic and vote for the Democratic Party. You can't. And what you're doing is you're placing your allegiance to a political party, a secular party, over your faith. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to tell you, you're going to be judged for this. I'm not trying to be self-righteous, but, you will be judged. But this to me is a level even worse, Mark, because we're not just talking about a political party that appeased Iran under Obama, that sent billions of dollars in cash, that put together one of the worst deals in diplomatic history, that put Iran on the path to the nuclear bomb, as horrible and atrocious and misguided as it was. We're now talking about an open supporter of Islamic terrorism who openly calls for the annihilation of the state of Israel, who is an open anti-Semite and Jew hater, okay, and a self-avowed communist to boot, who wants Sharia law in New York City, who is actively, which means he's ready to actively discriminate against non-Muslims, Jews being number one on his list, his hit list. So when I look at what Mamdani is doing and what Mamdani is standing for, I mean, I've never, it would be akin to Jews voting for Hitler in 1932. You're crazy. It'd be akin to Catholics voting for a communist, like in Eastern Europe. You're crazy. Why? Because they're vowing to wipe you out. Like, what are you, nuts? You know, it's like an Irish Republican voting for, I don't know, the British monarchy. I go, what are we, sick in the head? I mean, they want to subjugate you. They want to bury you. They want to colonize you. They want to turn you into an imperial colony. And you're going to vote for that? So what I'm saying is, I look at Mamdani, and I'm telling you, this is the guy that is now leading to he's fueling so much anti-Semitism. It's now getting Jews in America killed, burned, or stabbed to death, or badly stabbed. And it's only getting worse. This is only 6 months. This is what he's done in 6 months, Mark. What the hell is this guy going to do after 2 or 3 years? And I'm telling you, I believe his goal is to start a civil war. He wants Muslims and Jews to fight it out on the streets of New York and slowly he wants to push whites, Jews, Christians out of New York City. That's his goal. And he's not going to stop. He sees himself, and you see it in that speech he gives. I mentioned that mosque where the imam called for killing the infidels by the sword. And there's Mamdani laughing and nodding his head. In his speech, he basically refers to himself as a Muslim prophet, as a sort of a messiah. That he's not just the first Muslim mayor of New York. He's like the leader of the Muslims in America. And he is going to lead them to the promised land. He will do the impossible. He will bring Sharia to the United States. And he will bring down the Jews and the Christians with him. He's a megalomaniac, and he's sick in the head. Final word to you, Mark.
I guess I'm going to leave it at one thing, and the Save America Act is so important because I don't believe that without illegals voting, that he would have become the mayor of New York. And with the revelations out of New Jersey, if senators like John Thune can't see that, this country could very well be lost in the next election, because what do they say? You can vote a communist in, but you can't vote them out.
Bingo. Mark, great call. Thank you so much for that call. By the way, speaking of New Jersey, I don't know if you heard, the software vendor that the New Jersey governor, Mikey Sherrill, said, oh no, it was a glitch. That's how these 6,600 illegals were put on the voting rolls. There was sort of kind of like a software error. The software vendor came out and said that's a lie. State Democratic officials in New Jersey ordered them. Mike and I were just talking off air, and I thought he made an excellent point. Really, honestly, a really, really good point. He said, Jeff, it's pretty obvious now with that growing voting fraud scandal up in New Jersey that the Democratic governor, Mikey Sherrill, obviously was trying to spin the situation. She knew a whistleblower was going to come out. She knew the media was going to break, at least the local media, was going to break the story. And so she came out with this 6,600 illegals, non-citizens, who were illegally placed on the voter registration rolls. And then she tried to blame it on a, quote, glitch, a software glitch, an error, as she put it. Oh, they were pressing no, I'm not a U.S. citizen, and somehow it just kept registering them as yes. Well, the software vendor, to their credit, said, whoa. We're not taking the fall for this. No. You're not going to blame us for this. And so they issued a statement, and they said, we're going to do this under oath. We can take it to court. We have all the documents, all the receipts. This had nothing to do with a glitch or a software error. We were ordered specifically by state Democratic officials, when they press no, you turn it to a yes. So even if they say they're not citizens, you put them down as citizens. And this was all approved by Democrats and administration officials. New Jersey Democrat officials. So it was, as I said before the break, it was deliberate. It was completely deliberate. And so many of you are going to say, well, Jeff. But if the illegals are non-citizens themselves say no, meaning like, we don't want to vote, we're just being honest, we're getting our driver's license or a identification card or wherever it may be, and you ask me a question, am I a citizen? And I go, no. And then the software company is told, no, you make a no a yes. Well, their intention is not to vote. So what's the advantage to the Democrats? All they need is the list. That's all they need. All they need is to have these names that are registered to vote, falsely claiming they're U.S. citizens when they're not. And then remember, they have an army of ballot harvesters and ballot traffickers. And they can just send out mail-in ballots in their name. That's how the system works. They don't even need the illegals to vote. They just need the illegals to be registered to vote. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. Not that I would ever do this because I'm not a liar and a cheat. But if I was a Democrat, I would say, look, all I just need are the names. I don't need them to actually vote. That's no problem. We can have people vote on their behalf. What I need are names, addresses, and get them registered to vote as legitimate U.S. citizens. Once you get that done, that's the hard part. Counting them as votes, that's the easy part. So, again, they've been caught red-handed in a massive voting fraud scandal. And now it turns out Mikey Sherrill lied. Again. It was not a software glitch. It was clearly done at the orders, the behest of the Democratic Party. And apparently now it's coming out, it's not 6,600. They're looking at 35 to 40,000 minimum. Minimum. Non-citizens, illegals, registered to vote under this crooked, rigged system, this corrupt system that the Democrats have established in New Jersey. And I'm telling you, they have it in Massachusetts, they have it in New York, they have it in Illinois, they have it in California. And let's go back to New York for a second. That's what Mark and Milton was alluding to. We have to pass the Save America Act. Why? Because there's no way Mamdani would have won a free and fair election. There's no way this Ugandan Muslim communist would have won a fair and square. He had his army of supporters. They were flown in and allowed in by Joe Biden at the behest of Obama. And it's all coming out in New York. The word is out. Many of them voted illegally for Mamdani. So, in order to transform this country into a Muslim Sharia law country, they need voter fraud and election corruption. Without it, they don't have the numbers to do it. At least not yet. And so, on top of all of his other crimes, Mamdani stole that election. There's no question. There's no question in my mind. And so the question is, again, what the hell is John Thune waiting for? How much more evidence do you need? Why is Lisa Murkowski still a no? is still a no? Why is Susan Collins still a no? And to me, the answer is obvious. Follow the money. 617-266-6868. Frank in Mansfield. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try to listen to you every morning. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, I wish there were more of you. That's the only problem. To reinforce that, when Dami is not legally won that election, I watched the night that he was up in front of everybody when he accepted the fact that he won, and he had all his supporters behind him. And there was one guy standing there, and he was holding his hand up, and he had his four fingers and his thumb up, and he was yelling and yelling that he voted for Mamdani 5 times. And that's right on the TV. So I don't know if any way you could find out how to get a hold of that. It probably was on Fox. That's usually what I watch. But, I mean, he was yelling and screaming that he had voted 5 times and holding his hand up. So that just shows you what's going on, really.
And Frank, look, just to, I believe you, not 100, 1,000%. Just to piggyback off of what you're saying, you've now got, local media in New York. This is all coming out from the local media because I think they see what a danger he's become. I mentioned a Frankenstein's monster. He really now has become, they've created a monster. And they now realize, let me tell you what they all thought, Frank. They all thought free rent, free food, free subways. That's what we're going to get with Mamdani. And, of course, there is no free food, and there is no free rent, and there are no free subways or free buses. He lied on every single one of those because financially it'll bankrupt the city. It's impossible. But let that go. What they realized is we're not just getting that. We're getting Muslim extremism now. We're seeing a kind of hatred of the Jews. And now, even now, whites, Italians, blacks, that this is like stuff you see in the third world. This is stuff you see from Africa. This is not American. And they're starting to realize, this guy, he's got a screw loose. Like he's a ruthless, fanatical lunatic. And people are dying because of him. He's reckless and dangerous to a level that New York has never seen. And so now they're starting to do some actual honest reporting and digging. And they're going into all these massive third world migrant communities that were allowed to pour in under Biden. And they're asking them, did you vote for Mamdani? And they're saying yes. But when they do the follow-up, are you an American citizen? They say no. And it's not just one or two. It's over and over and over and over. These are migrants who are allowed to pour in. Some of them are pure illegals. Others are on temporary protected status, TPS. Others have claims pending in court. None of them are U.S. citizens. None of them are eligible to vote. But they said we voted early. We voted all day. We voted morning to night. And when they said why, when the reporters asked why, they said because he's one of us. Because he promised us that he would never allow ICE to come in and deport us. He will shield us from Trump and from ICE. And he promised us free grocery stores and free rent and free transportation and a guaranteed welfare check. So this guy's promising us the moon. And he's making sure that even though we're here illegally, no one's going to deport us. So they said we went out and voted for the guy in massive numbers. Now you know why the Democrats cannot allow the SAVE Act to be passed. Because if it is, A, their voting base is evaporated, and B, people are going to start asking, how come you guys were able to get this many votes? And now that we have voter ID and you need proof of citizenship to vote, You guys are barely getting half the votes you used to get. All of their corruption is going to become exposed. All of their theft, election theft, and crimes are going to become exposed. And I don't know what they're holding over Thune. I don't know how they're blackmailing him. I don't know what they're bribing him with. But man, even Trump now is blasting Thune at these rallies. He's blaming him. He's singling him out. He's saying, I don't know what this guy's doing. He will not allow us to pass the SAVE Act. Like, what's going on with him? Frank, this is a very, very dirty, dirty story. And it's obvious now. The left is trying to corrupt our elections to impose a communist takeover. And we can't allow it to happen, and I'm telling you, we won't. Frank, thank you so much for that call. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Okay, it's 8-ish. You know what that means on a Friday. Kuhner's Call Log, Caller of the Week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Susie.
Let me begin with, we the people demand the Senate pass the Save America Act immediately and instantly codify, ratify, whatever you want to call it, into constitutional law. No more negotiations, no more excuses, and no more compromises, no more delays. We are entitled to a sovereign nation. We are entitled to secure elections. We are entitled, we the people are entitled to have proof of citizenship before any decisions are made for we the people. No more non-citizens voting, and to listen to them to say, oh, it's only 6,600, they're lying. They're lying. They're lying. They've been lying. There's no accountability. So they continue to lie. Common sense isn't a common commodity. But let me tell you, let me assure you, they are lying.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. You know a Democrat is lying the moment he opens his mouth. That's, to me, that's there. Oh, is the mouth open? There's the lie. I mean, they lie like they breathe. And by the way, that was a dynamite call. All right. Many of you are saying, Jeff, we're busy. We're working. We're whatever. We're doing a million things. We can't call into the show. We'd love to, but we would love to have our voice be heard. Well, as you know, every Monday, 9:50, last segment of the show, we have something called Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat, where you can voice your opinion, whatever, agree, disagree with me, with Mike, with Sandy, and we will air it as part of a montage. And so the way you can get involved, if you want to do so, is get on the iHeartRadio app. Actually, it's the best way to listen to the show. So get on the iHeartRadio app and then just click the red microphone in the upper right corner of the app. There's a red microphone right there in the upper right corner of the app. You just click it, and then you can leave a message. And we will play it. And by the way, you can call anytime, Monday to Sunday. All week, anytime during the week. And we're going to play the best ones on the air every Monday at 9:50. So download the iHeart app. You hit that red mic, and you can join Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat, baby. All right, lines are blazing. Jeff in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Jeff, how are we doing today? God bless America. God bless every American, and God bless our troops. So here's the deal. Basically, how many Trump people did they try to put in prison for the Logan Act?
Quite a few, Jeff. Basically, almost everybody and his grandmother.
Correct. So Mamdani set up a meeting with Iran, which is harboring our enemy, which is treason. The reason this stuff continues to happen again, and the number one reason why I'm aggravated with the Trump administration, is not gasoline. It's the fact that there's zero accountability with the Justice Department. And that's why it will continue to happen, and we will continue to go down the toilet until these people... You've seen the story on Main Wire where the guy talked to the politician in Yarmouth, Maine, and the call, it's not Yarmouth, Massachusetts, it's Yarmouth, Maine. I suggest everybody look it up. It is insane. But until there's accountability, Jeff, this stuff is going to continue to happen. And from what I read from that post, and from what happened with these people put on the voter rolls, is they were checked off as American citizens. The number is far higher because there's people that checked the box saying they were American citizens. The 6,600 actually checked the box saying they weren't American citizens and were still put on the rolls. So until people are held accountable and go to prison for this, it will continue to happen.
Oh, you nailed it. Jeff, you nailed it. The 6,600 is just those that said no and then were turned into a yes. And we now know they were ordered to take the no and turned into a yes by the Democrats. We're not even talking about all those who are illegal or non-citizens who pressed yes. And again, there's no safeguard. There's no check and balance. There's no guardrail. Well, okay, you say, I'm registering to vote, okay? Jeff Kuhner, I'm going to make up a street now, 100 Smith Street, blah, blah, blah. Are you a U.S. citizen? Yes. Well, how do you know? Well, you're just going to take my word for it? In other words, I didn't have to show a birth certificate, or in my case, because I'm a naturalized American, my passport or my naturalization papers. I have naturalization papers showing I'm an American citizen, which is very easy. I have it in a box. I have it stored. Yep, here it is. They're just taking people's word. That's why Trump and the DOJ have come out and said 6,600 is the tip of the iceberg. You're looking at 35 minimum, probably 60, 70, 80, if not 100,000 people who are on the voting rolls who should not be on the rolls because they're not citizens. You're absolutely correct. And I want to go back to something else you said, Jeff. This was a huge story. And again, the media suppressed it. It came out, and it's been irrefutably now proven. Irrefutably. Mamdani ordered one of his top staffers to meet with a representative of the government of Iran at the United Nations as we're in a war with Iran. So our mortal enemy, killing American soldiers, firing at American bases, chanting death to America, targeting our men and women, on how to help Iran win the war against the United States. He was conducting, through his intermediary, his staffer, diplomacy with the mullahs, the regime in Iran. Now, he doesn't have the authority to do that. He doesn't have the right to do that. In fact, as Jeff rightly says, it's a pure violation of the Logan Act. And again, has she been arrested? It was a female, the staffer. Has she been arrested? Niet. Was Mamdani arrested? Niet. Has anybody been held accountable for this? Niet. So, you often ask, Jeff, how come the Democrats just keep pushing that envelope? They get more outrageous, more extreme, more criminal, because they're never held accountable. They never held accountable. Poor Mike Flynn, when he was coming in as national security advisor, there was a reception line where he's meeting, incoming ambassadors from other countries, and one of them happens to be the Russian guy, And he just shakes his hand, Mr. National Security Advisor, we look forward to meeting, talking with you, partnering with you. And that's it. Then the Polish guy comes behind him, the Lithuanian guy, just the handshake. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Have you seen anti-Semitism in your neighborhood or in your community? It's all over New York. You're starting to see it in many other places across this country. Have you seen it in your neighborhood or in your community? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Tom in Westford. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hello. Great show.
Thank you, Tom.
The biggest thing, they can talk all they want about all these socialist communists coming in. Until they fix the voting system, they're going to keep getting in. They've got to do something about the voting system. That's what's scary, especially for the midterms. That SAFE Act, they got to do whatever they got to do to get that SAFE Act through, or we're done. It's illegals are voting, and there's proof, just like what happened in New Jersey, and it's going to happen in New York, Massachusetts. They said there's a 40% Republican in Massachusetts, and we have no representation at all in Massachusetts. It's awful. Something's got to happen.
Well, Tom, look, I want the SAVE Act to pass. I'm going to do everything in my power. We have basically one more week left. It's going to be next week, and it's make it or break it. What I find really stomach-turning is not only is John Thune doing everything in his power to kill it and doing everything in his power for it not to pass, but listen now to this. He and Mike Johnson are now talking about having Congress do a recess. Congress should recess 1 week early for their summer recess, their summer vacation. So they want to end Congress and their ability to do any business 1 week early to really screw the SAVE Act and then go on a 5-week vacation. It's not even going to be 4 weeks. It's going to be 5 weeks. They're not going to come back until after Labor Day in September. And once they come back in September, they're not going to vote on the SAVE Act. They're not going to vote on anything because it's all election mode. Everybody's on re-election mode, trying to save their seats, raise money, fundraising. So it's basically now next week, it's now or never. But the other thing that turns my stomach, Tom, they just came back from a vacation. And then they came back from that vacation from a previous vacation. And now they're going to go on a 5-week recess? A 5-week vacation? When I saw that story, my eyeballs popped out of my skull. I'm like, how many months off do these members of, what weeks, how many months do they have off? First of all, who gets 5 weeks off in the summer? That's what I want to know. But they're always on break. February break, spring break. It's always Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, you name it. Now summer break. To me, when are they not on break? To me, that should be the question. So they're now going to go on a 5-week recess. And forget not passing the SAVE Act. They think they should be rewarded. with an extra long vacation. So, Tom, they're basically giving us the middle finger right to our face. Not only do we not represent you, not only are we not going to vote for the one bill that the country wants them to vote on, but we're going to give ourselves 5 weeks on your dime. We're off to Tahiti or Hawaii or wherever, the Bahamas, and blank you. You know, as they fly first class or get on a private plane. So, Tom, let me ask you, do you think they should be maybe, I don't know, working this summer? trying to do good for the American people? Or do you think they deserve to have 5 weeks off? Because if I were Trump, I'd say, you don't pass the SAVE Act. You don't get 1 day vacation. You're working for 5 weeks. You're not on vacation for 5 weeks. What have you done to deserve a 5-week vacation? No SAVE Act, no vacation. What say you, Tom?
Yeah, 100%. He's got to step in. He's got to get this passed. Otherwise, the midterms are done. I mean, it's so scary. It's like he's got to do something. I mean,
I'm with you. Tom, he's going to have to do maximum pressure now. He's got 1 more week, maximum pressure. No, I often say to myself, you know, okay, I'm going to continue to take your calls. But look, let's get to the heart of the matter. What we're seeing now in the United States, and it's time that we stop kidding ourselves, is a deliberate infiltration by Islam into the corridors of power. Whether it be here in Massachusetts through S2134, whether it be through Mamdani, whether it be through the Squad, whether it be through Ilhan Omar, whether it be through Bernie Sanders, whether it be through the Democratic Socialists of America, but you're now starting to see it all over the country, and especially in the upper echelons of the Democratic Party. And as this is taking place, we are at war now with radical Islam. Or to be more accurate, we are at war with Shia Islam for now. For now. Sunni Islam, it's on and off with the United States, but now we are at war with the Iranian revolutionary Islamic regime. And over the last couple of days, there have been major new developments in that war. President Trump now wants to deliver a final knockout blow. According to senior administration officials, he has now become extremely frustrated with diplomacy, with the leadership in Iran. He now believes an all-out war is the only option to end this once and for all, that they are not serious about negotiating, that these are people who are 7th century barbarians, and they do not want a peaceful negotiated deal, but that they believe they can beat the United States and end up controlling the Strait of Hormuz and retain their nuclear weapons program. And so President Trump has now done the following. He has now given the order. We're waiting for it now to be executed, but he has given the order to drop the mother of all bombs, our most powerful ordnances and bombs, on Pickaxe Mountain. Pickaxe Mountain is the last holdout of the Iran nuclear program. It has very deep underground tunnels in which it is now believed that they have moved their centrifuges under Pickaxe Mountain, and they're going to try to use these centrifuges along with their nuclear material and their highly enriched uranium to try to construct a nuclear bomb. And so President Trump now has ordered that we basically bomb Pickaxe Mountain to oblivion with the most powerful bombs on the face of the earth. Iran says that is a red line, that if Trump does this, they are going to unleash terrorist attacks all over the Middle East, including here in the United States. We shall see. They may be bluffing. I'm just telling you what they're threatening. Furthermore, Trump has now announced a new policy on the Strait of Hormuz. And I am with him on this 1,000%. All the way, baby. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps are openly attacking boats, ships, and commercial vessels on the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, those are civilian targets. Those are crimes. Those are war crimes. Whenever they attack a ship, that is a war crime. President Trump now has come out saying, from this point forward, you attack or launch a drone, rocket, or missile at any commercial vessel or ship in the Strait of Hormuz, the United States will respond by bombing and destroying one bridge or one power plant in Iran. You target one ship, we blow up one bridge. You target two ships or three ships, we're going to bomb two power plants and one bridge, or whatever the combination. In other words, you continue attacking civilian targets, we're now going to smash and destroy your civilian infrastructure within Iran. And within a matter of weeks, there will be no bridges left, and there will be no power plants left. Their electric grid will be utterly annihilated, smashed to smithereens, which means the lights will go off in Tehran. As Trump said, we're even going to hit these targets around Tehran and inside Tehran. So the lights are going to come off in Iran. He's basically telling them, I am going to bomb you into the Stone Age, and your entire economy and society will collapse. You keep bombing us at civilian targets, we're going to hit you just as hard. Iran now is desperate to expand this war. And so what they have now done is, and I don't know how they managed to do this, but they managed to smuggle commanders, military commanders from Iran, along with missiles and drones, to the Houthis in Yemen, who are their staunch allies. The Houthis now have imposed a blockade on Saudi Arabia and their ships. Yesterday, the Houthis launched two devastating missile strikes on two Saudi oil tankers, hitting them directly and basically lighting them on fire, disabling them and crippling them as ships. This is now putting Saudi oil essentially now dead in the water. Saudi Arabia oil cannot be shipped to any of its markets around the world. Because of this strategy, oil now has skyrocketed to $100 a barrel. You're going to see it when you go to the pump, believe me. Gas is going to be way over $4 a gallon. And if it stays at 100 or creeps up to 110 or 115 a barrel, it's probably going to go up to $4.50 or $5 a gallon. And this is a deliberate strategy now on the part of the regime in Iran, working with the Democrats, knowing that if they can tank the global economy, drive oil prices and gas prices through the roof, that this will badly hurt Trump and the Republicans in the midterms. And so Trump now wants to really take it to the Iranians. According to Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, he said Trump is so angry now. This is no longer an eye for an eye. It is a head for an eye. And so he has now asked his generals for a massive war plan. From what I understand and from what I've read, we are now sending special forces into the region. more military ships and airplanes, fighter jets into the region, medics and troops into the region, that Trump now says not only will he resume the war, but he wants to start a war much bigger and much more intense and destructive than Operation Epic Fury. In other words, he says, we are going to smash Iran into oblivion. And he says, I don't care how long it takes, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but this will now be total war for total victory. Now, as things stand right now, Iran is launching missile and drone strikes, and what we've now found out, guided by China and Russia. Russia has managed to supply Iran with key missiles and drones, and the Chinese are helping Iran with their satellite system guide these missiles. That's why for the last couple of weeks they have been so devastatingly accurate, especially when targeting U.S. air bases in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, and especially the attack on our bases in Jordan. 4 American service members were killed, over 100 wounded, 100 U.S. service members wounded, 4 killed, and it was the accuracy and the precision that really has astounded Central Command and our generals. And the reason is they are being given direct assistance by China and by Russia. So Iran's missiles, although they're not firing nowhere near as many as we are now devastatingly accurate. And they're having devastating effects in terms of killing U.S. soldiers. They are also now deliberately targeting bridges, oil refineries, oil hubs. Okay, I want to ask all of you, the war is now escalating. It is clearly widening. The Houthis are now involved. They're now blockading parts of the Red Sea against the Saudis and Saudi oil tankers. This is now driving the price of oil and gas on the global market higher and higher. As I said, oil is now hit $100 a barrel. Iran now is attacking its neighbors with impunity, backed by Russia. Their missiles guided by China. They've now are starting to kill American troops, wounding about 100, and they're vowing to do more. Meanwhile, Israel has been asked by President Trump to sit on the sidelines. The Israelis want to help us bomb Iran to the Stone Age. However, Trump said, don't do it. Stay on the sidelines, because should you get involved, that will only dramatically escalate and potentially draw in even more countries and terrorist groups. So he's asking Israel to sit this one out. So basically, we are now going to escalate the war, maybe even launch a bigger war, call it Operation Epic Fury 2.0, that Trump says will be even more intense, more destructive, more comprehensive than the first 40 days of the military campaign. My question to you, do you support Trump now launching an all-out war, what he's calling now a total war, for total victory? Will it work? And his new Strait of Hormuz strategy, for every ship that the Iranians target, we will respond by destroying and bombing one bridge or one power plant. In other words, you attack any ship, not just our ships, any ship. You attack a civilian target, we will make you pay the price and blow up a bridge or an electric grid. So you launch about 15, 20, 25 strikes. Basically, you're going to have no bridges, no infrastructure, and no power. Will this bring Iran to heel? And do you support the president's new policy? Will it work? Or will it now only potentially widen the war, especially with Russia and China clearly supplying Iran with help and backing Iran with weapons and a satellite system that is guiding their missiles? And the question I have is this. If China is already guiding Iranian missiles that have killed soldiers in Jordan, 4, and wounded 100, some permanently maimed, is this not an act of war by China against us? And just as we used Ukraine as a proxy war against Russia, are Russia and China now using the Iran war, Iran, as a proxy war against the United States, against us? 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Sarah in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Sarah, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call.
My pleasure, Sarah.
I just wanted to tell you about an incident that happened about 2 years ago, I believe it was. My brother and I had friends in Fairfax County, Virginia, who had 3 children attending a very prestigious private school there. And one of the children, an 11-year-old girl, was experiencing really severe unaddressed anti-Semitism that was unrelenting for months. She was taunted for being Israeli. She's not, but she was told that Jews are baby killers and that everyone hates her because they hate Israel and they hate Jews. And that's why they didn't like her. And they also taunted her for her uncle dying on October 7th. And her parents finally found out about it because another child came forward. She was too afraid to tell her parents. So her parents went to the headmaster, and he allegedly promised to take action. Nothing happened. The harassment worsened. And when the parents told the headmaster that it's getting even worse and you still haven't done anything, he said she has to learn to toughen up. Now,
Sarah, we lost you. Mike, was this something on our end? Okay. Sarah, can you just hang on? Because I want to reestablish connection. This is such an important call. You just dropped. It wasn't purpose on us, I promise you. Let's see if we... Sarah, are you there? Okay, we got you back. Okay. Sarah, please pick it up from where you said the headmaster said she just has to toughen up. And then we lost you from that point. So please pick it up from there.
Thank you very much. Okay. He said she just has to learn to toughen up. Not that this really matters, because that statement in and of itself is ridiculous. But she's this little tiny stick figure, a sweet little girl. She couldn't even have the courage to tell her parents what was going on. She was afraid they would be mad at her. And that was the only response he had. He sent a letter shortly thereafter telling them that since you are not happy here and your children aren't happy here, I'm expelling all 3 children. And it was under that guise that you really aren't happy here, so I'm going to let you I'm not going to have you keep coming here anymore. And it's just showing us that this foothold has started a long time ago, and it's really getting worse and worse. They did take it up with the Brandeis Center for Human Rights. They had a lawsuit. They did win, but they got such a pittance of money. It really wasn't that much. It didn't even cover the 3 tuitions of $50,000 for each of the 3 children. It didn't even cover that.
Wow. Sarah, let me just say a couple of things, and please don't go because I want to come back to you. Number one, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. If those kids were Muslim, if those kids were Palestinian, if those kids were transgender or, LGBTQ or, the flavor of the month, the minority flavor of the month, I'm telling you that the school would come out with a letter, a statement saying that bullying is unacceptable. Those students that engage in it would be suspended, if not expelled. And they would move heaven and earth to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. So when the headmaster said they just got to toughen up, that was the clear signal that he's a Jew hater, he's an anti-Semite, and that he is tolerating in fact, probably encouraging anti-Semitism in the school. To me now, there's no question. And look, I'm not trying to pour gasoline on the fire. I'm telling you as an historian, under the Nazis, the first couple of years, I'm not talking the later years where it just went completely nuts, where it just, they just started throwing them in the gas ovens. But the first couple of years, when it was not quite as bad or quite as repressive as the later years, that's what they would do. They would target Jews in schools. They would call them all kinds of obscene names. They would taunt them. They would bully them. They would humiliate them. And then when the parents would complain, they would say pretty much hey, come on. Kids get bullied. What's your problem? Why this special pleading on your part? Like they would try to turn it on them. Well, you people are what? You're more important than everybody else? What, just because you're Jewish, you're entitled to special rights and special privileges? No. Hey, you tell little Yitzhak, he better, or, whatever. You tell little Mordecai, or whatever. Yeah, you bet, toughen up. Stand up for yourself. But, if you're really not happy here, and I can see you're not happy here, and they're like, no, we're very happy. We just don't want our kids to be bullied. No, I can tell. Out. We're going to expel you. Out. So what I'm saying, Sarah, is we've seen this movie before. The liberals are imitating the exact same playbook that you saw in Nazi Germany in the 1930s. I'm talking about the early 30s. And look, Sarah, you may disagree with me, which is fine, because this has been my philosophy, not just on the Jewish question or on racism in general, or to me, I use it with the vets. If an owner of a restaurant, as an example, says, we don't want to serve vets here, I know people get angry. I do as well. And they say, well, no, force that person to serve the veteran. And I'm like, no, just leave. And you're going to say, well, why? Aren't you letting the bigot win? I'm like, no, tell everybody. Nobody will go to that restaurant. The restaurant will be bankrupted. But I don't want to eat at a restaurant, or in this case, have children in a school where I'm obviously hated and despised. Why? Because I don't know what they're doing to my food in the kitchen. Like, this has happened to me a few times because of who I am. I will go, say, to a restaurant or a pizza place or whatever. And the idiot at the pizza place will say, hey, Kuhner, we don't serve fascists here. We don't serve white supremacists. Grace gets very mad. My children get very mad. And they're like, no, stay and force them to serve us. And I'm like, are you crazy? So what? They can urinate in our food? Spit in our food? Poison our food? No. Bye. And then I tell my friends and others, and they start losing business. So what I'm saying is, when you're encountering that kind of obvious Jew hatred and anti-Semitism, I don't even think it's good for the kids to stay in that school. Because they're going to make those children miserable. They're going to be a target no matter what. So it's almost like, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Because God knows what else these kids would be subjected to down the road. And then find a place that will accept your children. But look, my advice, instead of suing, is that the parents of the 3 children should have gone right on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, you name it, and say, there are a bunch of Jew-hating anti-Semites at this private school, named a school in Fairfax, Virginia. Do you want to send your kid to a school like that, Jewish or non-Jewish? And that's when you're really going to hurt them. Because even if you win a lawsuit, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So you can't tell anybody or make it public. To me, Make it public. Forget the money. Make it public. Let everybody know what a bunch of anti-Semitic bigots are running that school in Fairfax, Virginia. And then people are going to start to say, I'm not sending my child to that school. I'll tell you right now, Sarah, I'm not Jewish. I'm Catholic. And by the way, I used to live in Fairfax for a couple years when I worked at the Washington Times. So we went, we had a house in Virginia, and then eventually we moved to Maryland. But I know Fairfax very well. It's upper middle class, well-to-do, good, strong schools, education system. Shame them. That's what I would have done. Shame them. Go public with it. And I'm telling you, they would lose a ton of money. I know if I had kids in that school and I found out, my children, I'd take them out right away. Right away. I'd unenroll them right away. So, Sarah, my question to you, did the parents of the 3 children, did they make it public what the school had done to their 3 kids? And did they end up moving the children to a safer school or a better learning environment, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind you asking. I don't know to what degree they made it public. I don't believe they did very much. That's why I felt the compulsion to say something. I just wanted to also throw in, they are going to new schools because they have no other choice. And they're still encountering some issues from the past. But I just wanted to also throw out there that they were exemplary students. And the little girl that faced this harassment had won a science award, and he cut them out of the school 2 days before they were going to get it. That's why the parents wanted her to at least get her award. And when they for it, he said, no, you can't have it.
Ay, ay, ay. This guy, what a nasty piece of work. Sarah, look, Jews have to start getting organized. You've got to start getting awakened. You have to start realizing, if you stay quiet, it's not going to end well for you. You're not going to appease this monster. History has taught us that over and over and over again. You've got to speak out. You've got to speak out now. You've got to stop this now. This is unacceptable. 617-266-6868 is the number. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
How you doing, Jeff?
Good.
Lou, you were talking about voting, okay? In these statutes regarding census, the word citizen is used several times. We are 250 years old, and yes, the Constitution was written in a time where there were no cell phones, there was no oppressive media, et cetera, et cetera. It was just a country trying to become a country. That's why we have amendments. So one amendment, several amendments maybe need to be made, is to solidify the census regulations, because every state is including illegal aliens as part of the census. And what is the census used, by the way, for? For determining the amount of electoral votes in your state. So that's one of the reasons California, I understand it has large acreage. It also has a large population, as we know, and probably a very well hidden and undefined amount of illegal aliens. New York as well, okay? And right here in Massachusetts, well, I'm sure we have a substantial population. The thing is, it has to be straightened out, because that's the only way. And may have to be remember, we went through this thing with the real ID. They're not supposed to be having the real ID, illegal aliens. I don't know if they do or not, but they also have a Social Security number. By the way, that's sort of half regulated by the federal government, the real ID, what it's supposed to be used for. You can't get on a domestic flight without either a passport or a real ID. So you need to pare down the amount over time of electoral votes in places like California and New York especially, where they have a ton of electoral votes. Probably 20-30% of those votes they probably shouldn't even have. So the census needs to be straightened out. They should be asking you, and of course it's by word of mouth, right? how many non-citizens are in your abode. But what should really happen is every town and city, even if you're moving from, say, like Avon to Weymouth, Massachusetts, if you want to vote in Weymouth, Massachusetts, you should have to prove your citizenship when you move there. I don't care if you're an illegal. I don't care if you've been in this Massachusetts for 100 years. Your family, it's too free and easy to enter the voting roll. So in other words, that's one avenue. As you go into a new city, new town, whatever, you have to register to vote with that particular town, right? And it's just like when you get your real ID. You got to show forms of identification, including a birth certificate. If you can't come up with a birth certificate, then you have a problem. But again, the long-term solution for this is to weed out illegal aliens from voting. If they're going to let them live here, some kind of status, that's fine. That should be on your license too, by the way, or whatever. That indicates you're not a citizen, right? I know they have to drive, they have to work. However, they don't have to vote. You don't get to vote till you become a citizen. So I think you need to straighten out California and New York especially. They wouldn't be as powerful as such an influence in elections. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
You're completely right. No, you're completely right. Look, one of the reasons why they want illegals to pour into their communities, into their neighborhoods, into their, congressional districts, into their states, is because it gives them outsized representation, power in Congress, through the number of seats that are allocated to each state. So that gives the Democrats many more seats. So that gives them more clout in Congress, obviously, and also in the Electoral College. So if you didn't count illegals in the census, Republicans would have a bigger majority in the House of Representatives, and B, it would be much easier for Republicans to win the presidential election, because blue states like California or New York or Illinois would have much reduced numbers, much smaller electoral college votes that they can rack up for the Democrats. So that's another reason why they want illegals, A, in the country, and B, counted in the census. Nick, the only thing I would respectfully disagree with you on, and I say this respectfully, is when you say, well, if they want to stay, let them stay. If they want to work, let them work. They gotta live. I'm sorry. I don't want them to stay. And it's, I hear you. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. You're right. But they shouldn't be allowed to drive. Why? Because they're in our country illegally. They have no right to be here. They're not entitled to a license. They have no right to a license. They shouldn't be on our roads. Many of them are dangerous on the roads. And they should not be stealing jobs from Americans or driving down the wages of Americans. They don't have a right to a job. So I think on every level, to me, it's sort of like you have a squatter in your home and you say, well, the squatter has the right to the fridge, to eat, to the medicine cabinet, to sleep, but they shouldn't get a vote at the kitchen table about, how best to manage the house. And my position is, no, they shouldn't be there, period. They have no right to the fridge. They have no right to the couch. They have no right to the medicine cabinet. They don't have a right to be in the house. Kick them out. So, to me, I think we've got to take a hard line, because if we don't, they're going to give them amnesty. Sarah in Boston. Thanks for holding, Sarah, and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I have a couple things, but one is on this Iran situation. I don't understand why Trump didn't see that Russia and China were going to help them. I could see that Russia and China were going to help them. We had COVID so that he didn't get elected last time. Clearly, last week he's there, they've been interfering. Clearly, they were going to interfere again. I don't understand. What are you guys doing? I feel like I should be running the Department of War. That's all.
Sarah, what do you think now of Trump's strategy? He says he's very close to a decision for a massive attack on Iran. He says it's going to be bigger than even Operation Epic Fury. He says he's done. He is going to basically bomb them to the Stone Age. He's going to show them no mercy. Do you think it's going to work? And do you fear this could bring in China and Russia, and we could have ourselves a much larger war in the Middle East?
I think it definitely will bring them in, whether we see it directly or not. And he's going to get back to deporting the illegal people, and it was going to be the great economy of the United States. Just do it or don't do it. But this is nonsense. And of course they're going to interfere with the election. Who thought they weren't going to? That's my opinion.
No, Sarah, thank you. Thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask all of you this. Do you want to see Trump launch a massive, massive attack, as he's calling it? In other words, it's going to be even worse than Operation Epic Fury. He says he's basically going to flatten Iran. Do you support it? Or do you think it's not going to work and potentially may even spiral out of control with other great powers intervening? The other question, and I'd like for as many of you to weigh in on this as possible, now that the Houthis have been drawn in and they're essentially blockading Saudi oil and, bombing them, using strikes, missiles, drones to strike at their oil tankers. Gas now, oil is at $100 a barrel. They say it may go up to $110, $115. Gas is now going to be way over $4 a gallon. When you go to the pump, may even be $5 a gallon. There's fears that this could trigger a global recession and could really hurt the economy here as we head into the midterms. Are you worried that gas prices are going to go too high? Too expensive for you? Too expensive for your family? It's going to lead to a surge in inflation. Do you fear that? And do you fear now that by just dragging the war along as we head closer and closer to November, is the Iran war going to cost the president the midterms? I'm just curious, what is your take? 617-266-6868. Jim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome. Hello, Jim. Did we lose Jim?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, all right, Jeff. Happy Friday. Happy weekend coming up, Ed.
All the best to you, Jim. Go ahead.
So I got to say, wake up, America. I've been against this war for a while, and it's the escalation ladder. It's going up. What do we think is going to happen? We think this is going to end nicely, and there won't be, best case scenario. Sure, we beat them, and we lose millions of dollars, countless lives. 90 million immigrants going all over the world that are radicalized in Iran, which is just insane in the first place. And, worst case scenario, World War III. I knew this for a while. Russia, China, we already knew this is why they were accurate. I knew they weren't out of weapons. Everything's underground. We're saying we beat them. There's no military. That's not true. It's not true. The Strait is easy to open. It's not true. We went into this, and we couldn't even open the Strait. What, are we going to go at Russia and China? A massive military operation in Russia, which has been grinding it out, which will grind it out. They have the guts for it. And China, a massively unified country with technology, with everything else. What are we thinking? Oh, by the way, we're not unified. Not only are Democrats and Republicans are fighting, the old parties are fighting each other. You got the DSA fighting the establishment. You got original MAGA like myself fighting whatever this new version of MAGA is. So there's no unification. We're on the verge of civil war between each other, whether it's over cultural issues, over things that my point at this point, I'm over with. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I'm a big fan of secure borders and everything, but Jeff, I am so past. I'm looking at the end zone here, and this is frightening. We are at such a bad spot with this country. And you wonder, and then we talk about socialism. So that's another thing. How does that come about? Well, it's a failure of what's been going on now in capitalism. Now, I'm not a fan of socialism at all, but I see why it rises. Didn't come out of the ashes. It came from, we saw it in the 80s and 90s. We saw the deindustrialization of this country. We saw the Vietnam War. It cost tens of millions of people going into poverty, tens of millions of people with you know, that dealt with PTSD and just, I mean, we've seen this before, people. Wake up. We're going into it again, but it works. Because at least then we had some unification, and we didn't have a China, and we didn't have a Russia, which was like they are now. We didn't have other countries with nuclear weapons. I mean, I'm not trying to sound the alarm of nuclear, but it's just so many things that are in our face now, whether it's socialism, which is our own fault. I'm sorry, it's our own fault. We're supporting policies that are pushing it forward. We're not standing behind, whether you like them or not. Massey's standing up for what we originally voted for when it comes to MAGA. People like that. You know, listen, I'm a three-time Trump.
No, I hear you, Jim. You're a three-time Trump voter, but you're not happy about this war. In fact, you're an opponent and a critic of this war. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Retirement is something people spend decades preparing for, but one of the biggest surprises may have very little to do with money. It can be the expectations of family. Adult children may assume mom and dad will always be available to babysit. Siblings may expect help caring for aging parents, and even well-meaning family members can unintentionally begin planning someone else's retirement. That's why open communication and thoughtful planning are so important. In our complimentary investor guide, The Changing Story of Retirement, we explore how retirement has evolved and how retirees can create a future that reflects their own goals, priorities, and dreams. At Kelly Financial, our advisors help individuals and families understand their overall financial picture and prepare for a retirement that is both financially secure and personally fulfilling. To request your complimentary copy, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. 9:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. The question now, should Trump launch a massive all-out attack on Iran, as he apparently now is very close to deciding, or is it time to say no mas, no more? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Rick in Belmont. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
Jeff, how you doing?
Very good. How are you, Rick?
And it's funny because I'm at the same place where I called you in 2016, and I ripped you for supporting Ted Cruz, and I told you Trump's the man. He's the one who's going to do it. So I just wanted to let you know about that. So I've been a fan since way back. This war is a disaster. This guy, I can't believe he's selling out the American people by doing this. This whole thing is insane. The money he's spending, the fact that his entire agenda gets put to the side, and he does this war for a foreign country, it's just insanity. And I can't believe you're cheerleading it, Jeff. It's crazy.
Well, Rick, we'll get to me in a second, but let me ask you this. Let me just play devil's advocate. What do you say to the argument that, and this would be Trump's, reply, and I want to just get your take, I could not allow the mullahs to get a bomb. I couldn't. And this problem was not solved for 47 years. I had the guts, the determination, the patriotism to do it. We have degraded their military. We've smashed their Navy and Air Force. We've defeated their military for the most part. I can't allow them to control the Strait of Hormuz. It's bad for the region. It's horrible for the world. And so now I'm going to deliver the final knockout blow. What do you say to that answer, Rick?
Nobody believes any of it, okay? They've been talking about them with the bomb for, 30 years now? Nobody believes it. Nobody cares. And I mean, North Korea has a bomb. All that means is they don't get attacked. It's crazy. There was oil flowing through there my entire life until the day we started bombing them. You know, this is nuts. You should be focused on America. What do you think is going to happen when the Democrats get in? It's going to be back to open borders.
That's my fear. I mean, it's going to be a communist revolution. Please, but go ahead, Rick. Finish your point.
To them. By doing this, he's handing the country back to them after we got him out of jail. He was going to go to prison.
Rick, do you feel profoundly betrayed by the president engaging in this war?
Oh, yeah, everyone does. Everyone does. He just turned his back on everyone.
And what's your theory? Why did he do it?
Well, it's obvious. Everyone knows.
Do you think what, Israel?
Of course. He's owned. What do you mean interested? They just merged the militaries, didn't they?
No, they didn't merge the militaries. All they did was, and I think it's going to get taken out in the Senate, but you're talking about Section 219. They're just going to share technology and intelligence, but they're not merging the militaries. That's what AOC came out saying, and that's not true. I'm against Section 219. I don't think we should be sharing our intelligence or technology with any country. Don't get me wrong, Rick. But no, they weren't merging militaries. I mean, that's just not true. And I think that's going to be stripped out in the Senate. No, look, Rick, my position was I was against the war. I thought it was a bad idea. I was a war skeptic. I didn't believe what they were saying, that what they had sold Trump on, this quick 10-day, 14-day war, everything wrapped up after 4 weeks. I said, this is a pipe dream. This is going to lead to paralysis, a stalemate, a quagmire, and it's going to lead to high gas prices. It's going to reignite inflation, and this is going to drag on for months and months and months. And I feared it was going to hurt us in the midterms. Now we are where we are. And so to me, we're left with two options. Either we pull out now, just basically leave and come home, or we try to go for the final, go for the throat. At this point, I don't want to leave Iran wounded, but not crushed, not defeated, in control of the Strait of Hormuz. I think they could blackmail the entire world. I think they can rebuild their economy and their nuclear weapons program within a couple of years. And after this war, they are going to be hell-bent on getting a bomb. And I think where you and I disagree, Rick, is I don't see them as North Korea. North Korea are communists. They're atheists. For them, this is the only world that matters. These Islamists, these Shia fundamentalists and fanatics, they want to bring about the end of days because they believe that's their mission, to bring about a world Muslim empire and to bring about essentially Armageddon. And they will use it against Israel. I guarantee it. Israel has 100 nuclear missiles. They will retaliate, and you've got yourself essentially World War III. So to me, you've got to now that we're in this deep, to me, you destroy Pickaxe Mountain. You make sure they have no possibility of reconstituting their nuclear program, and you force them to relinquish the Strait of Hormuz. You cannot allow this terrorist regime to have control over 20% of the world's oil and natural gas and 30% of the world's fertilizer. So what I'm hoping for is that look, I'll tell you this, Rick. If they blow up every bridge and they blow up every power plant, Iran's finished. I mean, this is not bravado, bluster, jingoism. I mean, I'm just stating a fact. If you have no electricity and you can't move anything in your country because all the bridges are gone, you turn off the lights, many people will suffer, and I don't want to see that happen. But this is why Trump is telling them, okay, we can do it the easy way or the hard way. Well, now we're going to do it the hard way. And once he takes out that electrical grid, the lights turn off in Iran. They can't fight. And I think that's when the mullahs now are really going to feel the wrath of the Iranian people. And so I predict you're going to see a lot of chaos in Iran, and I believe now the regime's days are numbered. Just my prediction. Take it for what it's worth, Rick. Rick, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Just my opinion. It's up to you. Deborah in Georgetown. In other words, fish or cut bait. Either walk away and deal with the consequences or finish the job. And I mean finish the job. That's it. No half measures. No taking these list of targets off the list. In other words, finish them and it's over. Or just you've set their nuclear program back a generation and let the world deal with the Strait of Hormuz. I don't want to give them control over the Strait, but fine. But either you're in or you're out. But what we've been doing, this constant now, we're bombing them, we're wounding them, but we're not killing them. It's just bleed, 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 drip, 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 drip. And I'm just looking at oil and gas, and it's just going up and up and up and up. And I see the Democrats and the communists licking their chops, and they're going to run on affordability. And my fear is they may kill us in the midterms over the issue. 617-266-6868 is the number. Deborah in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Deborah, and welcome.
First-time caller.
Welcome,
call.
Deborah.
I agree with Rick. We should have never went into Iran to begin with, and Bibi Netanyahu is the only reason why we went in. Trump did not even listen to his own military. Everyone told him. They war-gamed what would happen if somebody went into Iran for the last 30 years. And Netanyahu convinced him he had 4 days and they were going to take everyone out. These are not rational people. These are a completely different ball game in Iran. And Trump, second theory, Trump's personality changed last year after his thing at Walter Reed, his yearly exam. Because in May, the Trump that we voted for had a complete 180. And he is doing everything he said he wouldn't do. He fell out with Elon Musk. Then he bombed Iran. Then he wasn't releasing the Epstein files. And we all know Epstein worked for the CIA, Mossad, and MI6. So, and unfortunately, I've listened to so many different podcasts over the last, since we went into Iran from various people, including Joe Kent, who's been on a number of interviews. We should have never went in. And now, even to pull out, it's all a mess. It's a really bad situation. So everybody better be prepared because it's not going to end. It doesn't matter. We can't bomb them into the stratosphere because they're a different animal. We are in the wrong jungle. And I agree with Rick.
Deborah, if you don't mind me asking, and if I'm getting too personal, please tell me, did you vote for Trump and have you voted for him in the past?
Oh, yeah, I did. Twice.
You
I didn't vote for him in 2016 because I wasn't as informed back then. I was busy running my business. And in 2020, when my business came to a halt, I work in the music industry, I got really clear with what was going on as soon as I saw COVID coming in. And anything and everything we had heard about for years was all on the move. So then I got really clear about what they were doing to him. So yeah, I still support him, but I feel like they're using some sort of a DEW weapon. They're using some sort of mind control. Trump is not acting right. He hasn't been acting right for over a year. He's not. This guy, I listened to his speeches and things, interviews from the last 15 years. He is completely acting opposite of anything he has ever believed in all these years. So unless he's the greatest liar, which I don't think so, because you'd have to be a sociopath to have the beliefs he had before, what he is doing right now. And Something else is going on. He's not acting like himself.
Deborah, let me ask you this question, because I know he would want me to ask you this question. His argument is, I could not allow this regime, the mullahs, this Shia theocracy, this apocalyptic regime, to have a nuclear weapon. And so I had no choice, for the good of your children, Deborah, grandchildren, for the good of the region. Yeah, Bibi obviously had an influence, but he says, Lindsey Graham came to me, General Jack Keane, Mark Thiessen, many others, and they said, you cannot allow them to acquire the bomb. Take them out now while we still can. And that's why I did it. What do you say to that argument?
Yeah. No, I think that they're all a bunch of traitors, Lindsey Graham including. Like, listen, that Section 219 earlier that you guys are talking about, everybody in the House of Representatives that voted for that needs to be out, gone. That I've been on so many breakdowns of what that really means, and yes, it does merge our military. And honestly, we'll never be able to get out of it. What Bibi Netanyahu gave them that language. So no, I don't believe anything that those people have. In his first term, he was surrounded by demons. And now in this term, he's turned against all his biggest supporters, and now he's right back into the cesspool again. Nobody around him, I believe. We're lucky that we still have Bobby Kennedy there. I mean, he ran Tulsi Gabbard out. Tulsi told him he had the best intelligence going. Trump is not himself, and whatever they're doing to convince him, and I believe it's more than just a threat, because I don't think that a threat really matters to him. He's not thinking right. And how come all the last 30 years they haven't gone in there? They know we stayed in there for 20 years. And there's no exit strategy on this. These people are not, there's never going to be peace in the Middle East because they don't want peace. And then Netanyahu wants to go into Turkey after this. I've watched Israeli TV, and I'm watching some of the nut jobs that they've got on Israeli TV. I have this app on my phone because I have Israelis coming to my house next week. And there's a whole group of people, the Likudniks, that's the party that Netanyahu is in. These people are on some other planet, and they don't care, and they will take all of us with them. They're going to go into Turkey. I have heard several of them saying this. And what they're doing in Lebanon, they're not rational. And on top of that, they want us to take and put 100,000 troops into Iran, because that's what it's going to take, if that, to get secure the Straits of Hormuz. They're not sending in the IDF. We have senators and Congress people that are dual citizens of Israel voting on the floor of the House with their IDF uniforms on. And you know what? The mainstream media doesn't tell the people this. The general public of the United States doesn't know any of this.
Deborah, just very, very quick, because we're running out of time. Which members of Congress, I'm just curious, have dual American-Israeli citizenship and voted in an IDF uniform on the House floor? Oh, I'm up against it. Okay. Deborah, thank you very, very much.